Drunk Dog Creative. Today's project is a diamond flap fun fold card that you can adapt to any paper combination you already have at home. For this tutorial, I'm using the new Masterfully Made Designer Series paper, or DSP, from Stampin' Up! I had so many ideas for this gorgeous paper that I decided it was worth featuring in several tutorials, especially since it's on sale for the month of June. If you hop over to my blog at drunkdogcreative.com, you can see a full list of the supplies I used for this card, as well as the U.S. Imperial sizing, especially for my American friends, family, and followers. Let's get started. So these are the supplies we're going to use to make this card. I've got the Stylish Shapes die set, and I'm going to be using two of the squares, the 6 centimeter and the 5 centimeter. I've got the Handmade Hugs stamp set, which we're going to be using today, the You're the Best stamp, and this decorative stamp. I've got my Trio Punch, which is an optional extra for the inside of the card. I think it's called Very Best Trio. I use this punch all the time. I'm going to be using the color Berry Burst, which is one of the new colors in our permanent range at Stampin' Up! And I'm going to be using it with some Moody Mauve jute. You can use any ribbon or twine that you've got. And I'm featuring the Masterfully Made DSP and the Berry Burst cardstock and the Glorious Gingham coordinating DSP that matches the Berry Burst. So I've already got my pieces cut, as you can see. What we're going to start with is a card that is 170 millimeters across and 148 millimeters high. And you're going to put this score fold 105 millimeters from the right edge so that when the flap is folded, only part of it covers the front. Then we're going to cut the Glorious Gingham DSP, and that is going to be 100 millimeters wide by 143 millimeters tall. And that is going to lay there. The other piece we're going to cut is two pieces of the DSP in two different patterns of your choice. Both of them are 60 millimeters by 143 millimeters. And these form the inside and the outside. And what's great about the double-sided DSP is you can change the look of this card simply by choosing different sides. So you could do that. You can do that. You can just play with it. I've chosen to go with that combination for the outside. But the inside, I'm really struggling to decide whether I want to use this side or this side, which is the beautiful Moody Mauve, which is part of the 2023 to 2025 In Color collection and pairs perfectly with the Berry Blast. So I guess if you want a sweeter, softer style, you'd go that side. If you want something a little bright or more bold, you'd go with that side. And then this white piece is going to be punched with the Very Best Trio and will sit there. The other things I've cut using the die set is two of these 6 centimeter squares in the same color as the base cardstock, and one 5 centimeter square in white. I've also cut a little piece that's 1.5 centimeters by 9 centimeters, and this is going to be the stabilizer for your diamond, which will be made by those. So once you've got all your pieces cut, it's a matter of assembling it. So I'm going to take my Very Best Trio and I'm going to cut the white inside. I kind of like this really fancy one for this card. This creates just an angled corner. This punch is to make a slot for ribbons or other embellishments, and this does sort of a curved corner. And to get it even, instead of just punching one side and then turning it around, you need to flip it over so that the curve and the point go the same way on all 4 corners. So I'm just going to do that now. I'm just going to punch that, and then I'm going to turn it over, punch again, flip it over, punch, flip it over, punch. And then I've got my inside piece where I can write my message ready to go. The next thing I'm going to do is assemble the diamond flap. And this uses the two 6cm squares, the 9 centimeter by 1.5 centimeter tab, and one of the 18 centimeter pieces of jute or ribbon. Now, I am going to work on the back side, so you can tell the front because the stitches from the die cut are really even, and on the back they're not. So I'm going to use my grid paper to line the points up. You can see that it would be easy to get it off centered, so grid paper is so helpful. So I'm going to line that up so that both points are on the same line. I'm going to put just a strip of glue tape right across the middle, and I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to get it to where the corners of it line up with the dots, and there's just a little bit of it sticking off, and you can leave that piece of glue there because you're going to need it. Then I'm going to run some glue right down that whole strip and also along the sides. And you use whatever adhesive you want for this. I'm going to take my jute or ribbon and I'm going to lay it on that glue so that it comes right out that corner. And then I'm going to take my other square, and make sure it's the right side facing up. And I'm going to line this up exactly and tape it so that it forms a single piece. So there I've got a single piece. If you have a little glue that sticks out, just rub it off. And you're going to leave that glue on there for a minute. So that can be put aside for a minute. So the next thing we're going to do is stamp the sentiment. Now, I've been using the Handmade Hugs set for a little while now, and there's even a coordinating punch that punches out this shape. I just love this, and it covers a range of things. But when you're doing this at home, you can use any sentiment you like. I've decided to use the little flower embellishment and the You're the Best. So I've got my stamp pad, and I love how these just open so easily, and they're all ready to use. Now again, I'm going to use my grid paper because I'm going to line those points up to make sure that they're even. The first thing I'm going to stamp is my design. So I'm going to just gently tap that to get the ink on it, and I'm going to line it up so that it's top and bottom, and just press, and that's beautifully done. Then I'm going to take my sentiment, and again, I'm going to just lightly tap. I'm going to line this up because I bumped it to make sure I get this straight. And I'm going to just right in the middle. And there's my sentiment. And they're both stamped in the beautiful Berry Burst. And that's the great thing about Stampin' Up! Is everything coordinates. The papers, the trims, the embellishments, the inks, it all goes together. So now we're ready to start assembling the card. And this is where there's a few steps that have to be done kind of in the right order. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my inside left DSP place. And again, you know, you can go either way depending on the look, but I've decided to go with the floral. So I'm going to just run some glue on this. Now, normally I use my Stampin' Up! Stampin' Seal, but I've run out, so I am using my old Scotch ATG for this. And you want an even margin all the way around. So you've got that there. And I want to do the front one next. this is where we also need to apply the jute or the ribbon. So I'm going to take my front piece and I'm going to put my glue on the back. So however you would normally put your adhesive on the back. But I'm going to make sure I've got it whichever way up I want it. I think I want it that way. And I'm going to turn it upside down with the top toward me so that I get the ribbon on the right side. And I'm going to put the ribbon in the middle. And this is, again, where you can use the grid to really help you center things. And I'm going to make sure that it's pretty firmly down. And I'm just going to run a little bit of tape over it to make sure it stays down. And then I'm going to place it move that up a little. See, even I don't always get it right. And then I'm going to place it on the front. Again, I want that margin pretty similar. Now, the other thing, if you really want to get fiddly, is that we're going to put our diamond with our flap also. So one of the things you can do is line up the diamond so that the edge of the diamond is just a little bit in from the edge of the card. And then I would slip this under, being really careful of the tape, so that it lines with the points of that diamond. And again, you don't have to be too pedantic, but if you want a really finished, precise look, that's sort of what you're looking for. And I just smoothed it all down. And that's got part of my ribbon ready to go. And then I'm ready to do the inside piece. But this also, okay, hang on. The inside piece, but this also lines up with this. So what I'm going to do with this one first is put a little bit of tape, there's already some there, on this back bit, or glue on the back of this flap. And I'm going to align it so that the edge of my diamond is kind of right at the edge of this DSP, making sure that this is straight and even. And then I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to fold that piece around and stick it to it. Right? Then I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to put my glue on the back of this piece. And I'm going to go right over that flap. And I may even take it out a little just to give it some extra stability. Then I bring my card back and I'm going to want this to top and bottom. Again, you want an even margin all around, but you also want these two pieces to line up as much as possible. And you hold it down. So now I've got the flap and the string, and I've got the other string here. So that should come over and line up pretty close. And it's almost ready. The other inside piece I'm going to do now is the white that I've punched out with the trio punch, my very best trio punch. So I'm going to also run some tape on that. And I'm going to put that so that there's just a small margin to the left, top, and bottom. And I'm going to make sure before I press it down that my front flap covers it, which it does. Then we can press it down and smooth it out. So as you can see, this looks complicated maybe, but it really isn't. So now all that's left is to affix the sentiment tag. Now you could just tape it in place, but I always like a little bit of texture and variety and levels. So I'm going to take my Stampin' Dimensionals, which are these guys. I swear by these. I love them so much better than foam tape. They're so easy to use. They also come in black. They're black once you take the tab off. And they come in a little tiny mini size too, which is really useful. So I'm going to put a few of these on here. I'm going to do the corners, and then I usually put one in the middle as well. I probably overdo it on all my adhesives, but I'd rather overdo it than underdo it. I'm just using some tweezers to make it easier, although tonight it doesn't seem to actually be easier. Okay, so I've got my dimensionals on there. Then I just simply take the backings off. And then I'm going to do it this way first. And then I can just line those up and get that margin even and those points the same and press on the dimensionals. And guess what? Your card is done. So then all that's left to do is tie the bow. And then you can just snip the ends to whatever length you want. And there's your diamond flap fun fold. Now, this is simple, and it was easy to put together. The only fiddly bit is lining this up. But if you want to give it a little bit of oomph, you can add some embellishments to it, whether it's glitter or gems or whatever you want. What I've got here is the Stampin' Up! 2023-2025 in color dots. Now the Moody Mauve, these are the 5 in colors this year. So there's the Pebbled Path, the Wild Wheat, Moody Mauve, Copper Clay, and Boho Blue. The Moody Mauve coordinates very well with this DSP, and so does the blue, really. So does the yellow. Can you see how the DSP, even if I untie this and look at some of the others, you can see how they coordinate with the DSP. And again, that's the coordination stuff. So if I close that, I'm going to take the Moody Mauve, the little ones, and I'm going to take my pick, and I'm going to use the putty end, and I'm just going to pick up one of those little mauve embellishments and put it right on the end of that stamp so that it just adds a little touch to it. And then I might take one of the tiny yellow ones and just put it at the center of some of the little flowers within this design. And you can see that it coordinates with this yellow here. Just a couple is all you need to just give it a little bit of a pop. And I might take one more of the Moody Mauve and just find one more flower here so that it ties it into here. And just that little bit gives it that little pop of color. And there we've tied the bow again. And the card is complete. A little bit of those gems to just take it that little next level up. And it's ready to send.